Welcome back, everybody. Today, I have a really special guest with me. Today, my guest is composer Wynn-Anne Rossi. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am delighted to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Today, I want to start off by asking you a few questions about your musical background. So, do you come from a musical family?
I wouldn't call it musical. It's creative, but not particularly musical. My parents fell in love thanks to music, and we had a huge library that was in our. We had this house that had a balcony, and then underneath was this area that we had the stereo. And during breakfast, my parents would play all kinds of music, including Madame Butterfly. I remember one time my dad put on Madame Butterfly while I was having breakfast. He didn't speak a lot at breakfast, but all of a sudden he pulled his nose out of his newspaper and said, "Oh, this is where she gets stabbed." And so I had an interesting introduction to all kinds of music over the breakfast table.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love how music was part of the fabric of your family. What were some of your earliest experiences in music?
Well, anyone who's heard me speak has probably heard about my stories with my mom. We had a piano when I was very young, 2 and 3 years old, and she would call me over to the piano like it was a toy, and we would make up stories together. And so she would sit down and say, "Okay, today I'm going to be a bear. What do you want to be?" And I'd say, "Birdie" or something. And then we would make these stories and chase each other. And honestly, I think that's why I'm a composer today.
What a cool introduction to being musically creative and making the music your own, not just today you are going to learn to play middle C and you are going to learn to read what someone else wrote, but your introduction to music was finding your own voice as a composer and experimenting and that playfulness. I love that. That is just awesome.
That was, and I have other early memories of piano too. I remember the feeling of swinging my legs and almost falling over. And I remember this when I teach because students have a hard time physically taking on this big creature of the piano. And it's good to remember what it feels like to be a little kid sitting at the piano. And I have those early memories are strong for me.
That's such a cool awareness. Who are the people who kind of nurtured you as a composer?
I mean, I can always go for my earliest teachers and for great composers, but I think that I have to vote most for the friends and acquaintances in my life that continue to pass through my life. Friends see you as more than you are in the moment.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. What are some of the most important things that challenged you as a composer and challenged you to become better and to continue to grow?
I have to go with failures. Failures teach way more than successes do. And they have driven me to do certain things that have changed my life. I remember one time I was just trying to kind of try on being a composer in my early years, and I put on an entire program of my own compositions and pulled together really cool narrators and sent out invitations and put on a beautiful spread, and hardly anybody came. And I was living in a smaller town, and I was like, this is not where I'm thriving, and I can do more than this. And that was one of the really driving forces for my husband and I to move up to Minneapolis. Failures, even catastrophes in life, losing my mother in my 20s, terrible catastrophe. But thanks to that, I went on to do things that I didn't dream that I could do. I just think that catastrophes and failures, you also find out your limitations. You know, we find those limitations that we have, and we find out who we are by our failures.
Oh, what an insightful answer. I love that. That's awesome. So your compositions are really varied, but they all have this unique sound to them that is uniquely yours. And when I play one of your pieces, I always have this sense that you found your own unique compositional voice. I can sense that you have this great idea of your own identity as a composer. What were the things that you did that kind of helped you to find your own sound and your own voice as a composer?
That's a great question, Sam. And thank you, because I often don't feel like I have a distinct voice. I feel like my curiosity fights that. And so when I find a sound, I'm always like, what else is there? What else can where's the next sound that I can go to? So, you see the Latin series, you see the jazz series, you see the Dancing with the World, new dancing series. They're all pushing myself to find the next sound. So I really appreciate you saying that I have a sound. I can say that one of my best teachers was Aaron Kernis. I studied briefly with him, and one of the things he said to me was, find the places in your compositions that you love and do them more. And
Oh,
so that kind of, I think you're probably referring to a certain resonance that happens in my harmonies. Um, there's a certain harmonic language that I can claim, that when I'm working at a piece and I go, oh, there it is, and then I follow that stream of consciousness. That's a good thing to think about, is what do you love? What develops your own music tastes? Because your tastes are what make you compose what you compose. So hopefully we develop good taste in the course of being musicians.
excellent. So, where do you seek inspiration for your compositions?
I think I would voice it as inspiration finds me. I look at inspiration in a similar way to the way I look at prayer. I don't think I have anything to say except thank you, and maybe on behalf of the human race, I'm sorry. But if I listen, there's a lot to be heard. So it's so important to not speak so much and to listen more. And if you're in that listening mode, the inspiration is literally everywhere.
I love how you're staying open to what the world has to offer you and what the universe is bringing to you. I think that's really wonderful. What are some of the attributes that you feel help people to become successful composers?
I would start with loving music. Because if you love music and you love all the aspects of composing, then you're going to do it more. And what makes a good composer is quantity, is writing a lot of music. And if you love finding those sounds and putting together and sharing them, if you love it, then you're going to do a lot of it. I do believe that to be a successful composer, you've got to be pretty good at it. And to get good at it, it's not all about marketing. It's all about being good at your craft. So you want to do everything you can to be good at your craft. And then if you're lucky, if you find the kindness in others, maybe, just maybe you can rise up.
Excellent. Excellent. Talk to me a little bit about what roles restrictions play in your compositions.
Limitations is key. I have limitations for every piece that I've ever written. I always set up limitations for myself. We have to have limitations. Our bodies are limitations. Every piano piece is limited. And we thrive with pushing up against those boundaries.
Can you give us an example of some limitations that you've used in a composition?
Sure. Every piece, particularly educational music. Oh my goodness. Think about the limitations with that. You think about, what does it feel like to be a 5-year-old and kind of keep my fingers on all those keys and that fifth finger is going to be a problem, and you have to get into the psyche of a 5-year-old or a teenager or somebody who has physical issues, all kinds of things. So you're also taking into consideration the physical limitations of the player. So yeah, limitations are our friends. Well, the creative process. We don't often think about. Many people say I'm not creative, and I just like, oh, come on, because we're every time we make a sentence, every time we speak a sentence, we're being creative because we're putting words together in a new way that comes out in a way that maybe has never been spoken before. So yeah, we're all creative. It's just we have to learn the language of music as well as we learn the language of English or French or whatever we speak.
How do you manage your time so that you find time to compose?
If I were to give advice, I don't always take my own, but if I were to give advice on that, I would say give your best brain to composing. So for me, my best brain is mid morning. I'm not good at 9 o'clock at night. So once I have my coffee, once my family is somewhere else, once I've taken the dog walk, that is my freshest mind. So that's where I need to sit down and do my composition. And sometimes I'm very disciplined and sometimes I'm not.
But I love that you haven't put that pressure on yourself saying, I have to do this right now.
No,
Because I
no.
think, again, that gets us to that point where it's a high pressure situation and it's not playful and it's not fun anymore. And I love how
Yeah.
you continually come back to emphasizing this has got to be fun. And,
Oh, yeah.
it's not
And
high
it's
pressure.
funny. It's funny, Sam, because sometimes when I'm writing, I sit down and I look at the music and I'm like, yeah, this isn't working. Yeah, this isn't working. What's in the refrigerator? so, so I walk over and I get myself a cup of tea. I open up, maybe I have a piece of chocolate. I walk around and look out the back window and notice a woodpecker on the bird feeder, and then I mosey back, and it might have been 3 minutes walking around the house, and all of a sudden the ideas are there. So that breathing space during the creative process is so important. Taking that pressure off, uh, just just having fun. Yeah, that's it.
You've talked a little bit about doing teaching, and I know you do composition, and I know you do clinics. And so you, like many composers, cobble together a living doing multiple things. What are your feelings about having these different aspects of your musical life in your career?
They've been absolutely necessary. I started with teaching, and that was income. And as I established myself more as a composer, the royalties started to take part of my income and take the pressure off, so I could do more composition. And then so teaching kind of moved into the composer, and then the change of photocopies and teachers having musical libraries, lending libraries. Ouch! That all took away from sales. So, and the fact that the all the differences in changing with the publishing companies, the mergings, the shutting downs, all these things focused more away from royalties because the royalties started going down, and took it more towards presentations and lecturing. So I make the majority of my money now with always teaching, but also with presentations. Not so much with when I write a new piece. It isn't going to make me big bucks. It's just not the way that the industry goes. So teaching, composing, presenting, all those bring in different aspects of my income. And I need all three.
Well, Wynn-Anne, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today and share your wisdom and your insights and your knowledge. We're so incredibly grateful
You're
for
welcome.
you to be here today and give so freely of your time. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome, Sam. And I hope we get to keep contact a little bit more.